My dad spent years controlling every narrative in our house. Who was dramatic, who was unstable, who was misremembering. Then I found his secret online dating profile claiming he was separated. So I tested him. One fake account later, the lies unraveled so fast, it was shocking and crazy. I'm 22 and I moved out as soon as I could afford to. Not because we were poor, not because I hated rules. I left because living with my dad felt like living inside a courtroom where he was the judge, the jury, and the only one allowed to speak. He doesn't fight like normal people. He builds narratives. He collects moments and stores them so he can use them later. If you cry, he calls you unstable. If you stay calm, he says you're cold. If you defend yourself, you're disrespectful. There's no winning, just surviving. Growing up, he was never the type to throw punches. He didn't need to. He preferred humiliation. If I wore something he didn't like, he'd comment on it in front of relatives. If I disagreed with him at dinner, he'd smile and say, "See, this is what I deal with." He'd tell people I was dramatic, emotional, fragile. He especially loved comparing me to my mom in the worst way possible. "You're just like her when you get like this," he'd say, like it was an insult. By the time I was 17, I learned the safest thing to do was speak as little as possible. My mom and I never had a conversation about it, but we both knew the routine. Don't trigger him, don't contradict him, don't challenge him in front of other people. 2 months ago, something shifted. He suddenly cared about how he looked. Gym every day. Protein shakes lined up in the fridge. New shirts that were tighter than anything he'd ever worn before. He changed his haircut, started whitening his teeth. He also started guarding his phone like it contained nuclear codes. If a notification popped up, he'd flip it over instantly. At the same time, he started criticizing my mom more aggressively, saying she let herself go, saying she didn't appreciate him, saying he felt emotionally starved. He'd sigh loudly at dinner and say things like, "Some people don't know how lucky they are." Then one night, a friend sent me a message on Instagram. "I think I just found your dad." It was a profile with a different name. No family photos, no wedding pictures. The bio said, "Entrepreneur, independent, recently single, recently single." He had posted gym selfies, close-up smiling photos, quotes about second chances. He was following a bunch of women in their early 20s, commenting things like, "You deserve a real man. Maturity matters. Age is just a number when the connection is real." I stared at it for a long time before I did anything. I didn't confront him immediately. I made a new account, different name, no personal photos. I followed him. He accepted within an hour. He messaged first. He asked how old I was. I said 21. He told me I seemed mature for my age. He told me he had been emotionally alone for years. He said his previous relationship was toxic and that he had finally separated, but the paperwork was complicated. Separated. That word again. He talked about how he valued loyalty, how he couldn't stand dishonesty. He said he had a daughter, but she doesn't really understand me. That part made my hands shake. I didn't flirt much. I just asked questions. He volunteered everything. He said he was financially stable, said he was looking for someone who appreciated his drive. He sent gym pictures that he hadn't posted publicly yet. I screenshotted every single message. When I showed my mom, she didn't scream. She didn't collapse. She just sat at the kitchen table holding my phone like it was something heavy. She asked me if I was sure. I showed her the timestamps, the pictures, the recently single. She went very quiet. That night, instead of confronting him alone, she waited until dinner when I was there. She asked him calmly, "Are we separated?" He looked confused for half a second. Then he smiled like she had told a joke. "What are you talking about?" she said. "Because apparently you've told people we are." His face changed. Not guilt. Calculation. He asked where she heard that. She didn't answer. She just slid my phone across the table. He didn't explode. He laughed. He said social media isn't reality. He said people exaggerate online. He said she was overreacting and invading his privacy. Then he looked at me. "You did this." I said, "You did." He said I created a fake account to spy on him. He said that was psychotic behavior. He said no mentally healthy person catfishes their own father. I told him no faithful husband calls himself single online. He stood up so abruptly his chair scraped hard against the floor. He didn't yell at first. He lowered his voice. "You think you're clever?" I said, "I think you're sloppy." That's when he started shouting. He said I was obsessed with tearing him down, that I've always been jealous of him, that I can't stand that people like him. He accused me of trying to destroy the family because I need drama to function. I shouted back that he destroyed it the second he lied about being separated. He turned to my mom and said, "Look what you raised. A manipulative liar." I said, "You literally pretended to be single." He slammed his hand on the table and told me to shut up. I told him to stop talking about loyalty like he invented the concept. He said I was unstable. He brought up anxiety attacks I had years ago and said this was proof I wasn't right in the head. He said if I tried to embarrass him publicly, he'd make sure everyone knew about my episodes. He said he'd tell relatives I'd been spiraling. I told him to go ahead. He said, "You won't win this." The next day, he posted on Facebook, "It hurts when betrayal comes comes from inside your own home. No names, just that. Within hours, relatives were messaging me asking what I'd done. An aunt called me dramatic. An uncle said I needed to respect my father. Someone told me I should apologize for digging into private matters. He told people I hacked him. He told one cousin that I edited screenshots. He told my grandparents I was blackmailing him for money. When I confronted him about that, he didn't deny it. He said, "I'm protecting myself from your lies." I yelled that the messages were real. He said, "Prove it." I said I would. He stepped closer and said if I sent those screenshots to anyone else, he'd cut off every bit of financial support he still provided. He said I'd regret humiliating him. He said I'd come crawling back when I realized how hard the world actually is. I told him I'd rather struggle than keep quiet while he lies. He laughed in my face and said I've always been dramatic and self-righteous. He said I think I'm morally superior, but I'm just bitter. I said at least I'm not pretending to be single at his age. He called me disrespectful. I called him desperate. He told me to get out of his sight. Update 1. He never cut me off financially like he threatened. That would have been too obvious, too clean. Instead, he pivoted. If you didn't know what happened, you would think we were the perfect family. He started overcorrecting in public. At a relative's birthday dinner, he kept his hand on my mom's lower back the entire night. He kept calling her baby and my better half in front of everyone. He poured her wine before she could reach for the bottle. He posted a photo of them on Instagram later that night with the caption, 22 years strong. I'll take a quick break here to remind you, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments if you're enjoying the story, and tell us if something like this has ever happened to you. Real love takes work. Comments flooded in about how inspiring they are. Meanwhile, he had blocked my main account on his fake profile, but he forgot about the burner. I watched him quietly deactivate the first account and make a new one within days. Different username, slightly altered bio, recently separated, focusing on myself, separated again. This time he was more careful, fewer public comments, more private DMs. At the same time, he started planting seeds. An aunt called me asking if I was feeling okay. She said my dad told her I'd been acting erratic and that he was concerned about my mental state. A cousin texted me saying, "Are you back in therapy?" Uncle said you've been spiraling. Spiraling. That word spread fast. He wasn't defending himself anymore. He was discrediting me. I confronted him in the kitchen one afternoon when my mom was out. I didn't scream at first. I asked him calmly why he was telling people I was unstable. He didn't even hesitate. He leaned against the counter like we were discussing the weather and said, "Because you are. Healthy people don't run fake accounts to trap their fathers." I said, "Healthy married men don't introduce themselves as single." He rolled his eyes and said I was obsessed, that I'd been looking for something to accuse him of, that I'd probably manipulated the conversation to make him look bad. I told him I didn't have to manipulate anything. He volunteered the lies. That's when his tone shifted. He said if I kept pushing this narrative, he would make sure I lost every ounce of support I had from extended family. He said people already thought I was dramatic and he'd clarify the picture. I said, "You're scared." He slammed his palm against the counter so hard a glass rattled. He stepped toward me and said I was an ungrateful child who owed him loyalty, that everything I have is because of him. I yelled back that loyalty doesn't mean protecting lies. He said I was disrespectful. I said he was reckless. He told me to go ahead and post everything publicly if I thought I was so righteous. "Post it," he said. "I dare you." So I didn't post it. Instead, I sent the screenshots privately to the woman he had been talking to the most recently, the one he had told he was planning a future with. I didn't write a speech. I just said, "You should know he's married." She replied within minutes. Shocked, confused. She said he told her he'd already separated and was finalizing paperwork. She said he'd been talking about moving closer to her. Moving. She forwarded him our conversation immediately. My phone rang less than 10 minutes later. He wasn't controlled this time. He was frantic. He was yelling so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. He accused me of sabotaging his life. He said I had no idea what I just cost him. He said I had destroyed something important. I told him he destroyed it the second he lied. He said I was vindictive. I said he was delusional. He hung up on me mid-sentence. After that call, something changed. Not publicly. Publicly, he was still husband of the year. But at home, the air felt different. He stopped yelling as much. That scared me more. He started watching me. If I was on my phone, he'd glance over. If I left the room to take a call, he'd suddenly need something from me. He started asking casual questions that didn't feel casual. "Who are you talking to? Still obsessed with my social media? Found any new lies to spread?" One night, I came downstairs to get water, and he was sitting at the dining table in the dark, just sitting there. He said, "You think you're winning." I didn't answer. He said, "You embarrassed me." I said, "You embarrassed yourself." He told me I had crossed a line by lie involving someone outside the family. That what happens in a marriage is private. I told him he made it public the second he introduced himself as single. The next day, my mom confronted him again, not screaming, just tired. I overheard him telling her that I had weaponized his private conversations. He said I was trying to drive a wedge between them. He told her I've always resented him, and this was my chance to punish him. Later that evening, she asked me quietly if sending the messages was necessary. That hurt more than his yelling. I told her I wasn't going to sit quietly while he lied to someone else and called her toxic behind her back. She didn't argue. She just looked exhausted. 2 days later, he escalated again. He sent me a long WhatsApp message. Not angry, calculated. He said if I continued interfering in his personal growth, he would withdraw any financial help for my tuition immediately. He said adulthood comes with consequences. He said I needed to decide whether I wanted to be part of the family or against it. I responded, stop pretending this is about growth. He replied, you've always been ungrateful. I wrote back, you've always been dishonest. He left me on read. At another family gathering, he made a point to tell a relative loudly that he's been dealing with a lot from one of his children lately. He didn't say my name, but everyone knew. Someone joked that kids these days are too sensitive. He laughed and said, tell me about it. I snapped. I told him in front of everyone to stop pretending he's the victim. He told me to watch my tone. I told him to stop rewriting the story. He said I was proving his point. I said he was embarrassing himself again. It turned into a full argument right there. He raised his voice first, said I was disrespecting him publicly. I told him he forfeited the right to talk about respect when he lied about being separated. He told me to shut up. I told him to make me. My mom stepped in and told us both to stop. He stormed outside. Later that night, he told her I was unstable and unpredictable and that he was worried about what I might do next. I'm not plotting anything. I'm just not quiet anymore. He's still posting curated marriage photos. He's still messaging women from that second account. He thinks I don't see it. I do. He hasn't apologized. He hasn't admitted anything publicly. Instead, he's building this quiet campaign where I'm the irrational one and he's the misunderstood husband trying to hold his family together. Update 2. 3 days ago, the woman I had messaged reached out to me again. Not angry, not attacking me. She told me she had confronted him properly and he denied everything at first. He told her I was a mentally unstable daughter who fabricated screenshots because I hate seeing him happy. He said I'd done similar things before. That's when she sent him screen recordings of his own voice messages. He had forgotten those. Apparently, he had been sending her voice notes late at night saying he couldn't wait to start fresh and that his marriage had been emotionally dead for years. He talked about untangling finances and how complicated divorce is. He didn't know she had saved everything. She told him she wasn't interested in being anyone's secret and that she was done. I didn't respond much to her. I just said she deserved to know the truth. That was it. The real explosion happened 2 nights later. He came home earlier than usual. He didn't greet anyone. I'll take a quick break here to remind you, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments if you're enjoying the story and tell us if something like this has ever happened to you. He didn't pretend. He walked straight into the living room where my mom and I were sitting and threw his phone onto the coffee table. Are you proud of yourself? He asked me. His voice wasn't yelling yet. It was tight. I said, about what? He said, you cost me something you don't even understand. I said, if it was built on lies, it wasn't real. That's when he lost it. He started shouting that I ruined his reputation, that I interfered in his personal life, that I sabotaged his chance at happiness. He said I've always wanted to see him fail. I stood up and told him to stop acting like I destroyed something sacred. I told him he was lying to multiple women while sleeping in the same bed as my mom. He shouted, you don't know anything about my marriage. I shouted back, I know you weren't separated. He tried to pivot and say that separation isn't just paperwork, it's emotional distance. He said he felt alone for years and that I had no idea what goes on between adults. I told him loneliness doesn't make you single. He stepped closer and said I'm vindictive, that I enjoyed this, that I get off on exposing him. He said I'm twisted. I said, you sent voice messages promising a future to someone while telling everyone here you're devoted. That's twisted. My mom finally spoke. She asked him one question. Did you tell her we were separated? He hesitated. That half-second pause said everything. He snapped and said, it's not that simple. She said, it's yes or no. He refused to answer directly. He kept saying I exaggerated things, that I manipulated the situation, that I poisoned that woman against him. I told him I didn't have to poison anyone. He did that himself. He grabbed a glass from the side table and threw it against the wall. It shattered everywhere. My mom flinched. I didn't. He pointed at me and said I've always been a problem, that from childhood I've been dramatic and attention-seeking, that this is just the biggest stunt yet. I told him if calling out lies is dramatic, then fine. He said, you want the whole truth out there? I'll give it to you. I said, do it. He stormed off to the bedroom and slammed the door. 10 minutes later, my phone started buzzing nonstop. He had posted a long status on Facebook. Not vague this time, direct. He wrote that he had been struggling in a loveless marriage, and that one of his children had decided to publicly shame him by invading his privacy and sharing private conversations. He said he had done nothing physically unfaithful and that flirting isn't a crime. He said he is being emotionally attacked in his own home. He didn't name me. He didn't need to. Comments started pouring in. Some people supported him. Some asked questions. A few tagged me directly asking if it was true. I responded under the post. I didn't insult him. I didn't rant. I wrote, "You told multiple women you were separated. That's not emotional confusion. That's lying." He immediately replied that I was proving his point about instability, that I need help. I wrote back, "Post the voice notes." He didn't respond to that. Instead, he started messaging relatives privately. I know because two of them forwarded me what he said. He told them I had been threatening him, that I was trying to blackmail him with edited content, that I've been spiraling for months. One of my uncles called me and told me I needed to stop humiliating my father online. I told him to ask my dad directly whether he told another woman he was separated. My uncle went quiet. Then he said this should stay inside the family. I said it should have stayed inside the marriage. The next morning was worse. The woman I originally messaged apparently wasn't the only one. She found another and another. They connected on their own after comparing timelines. One of them messaged my mom directly. Not me, my mom. She sent screenshots of conversations with my dad that overlapped with the others. Same promises. Same, we're basically done. Same future plans. My mom didn't cry. She went into the bedroom and closed the door. He found out she had those screenshots. That's when the real shouting started. He accused her of spying, of teaming up with me. He said we orchestrated this whole thing to destroy him. He said we embarrassed him on purpose. She yelled back for the first time in weeks. She asked him how many women he told he was separated from her. He said she was twisting everything. She asked him how many. He refused to give a number. I stepped in and told him to stop gaslighting her. He turned on me immediately, called me poisonous, said I've been waiting for this moment my whole life, said I can't stand him having any independence. I said independence isn't lying about your marital status. He said I'm obsessed with controlling him. I laughed and said, you created fake accounts to chase women half your age. He told me to shut up. I told him to make me. He walked toward me like he wanted to intimidate me, but this time I didn't step back. I told him if he raised his hand or touched me, I would post every single screenshot publicly and tag everyone he knows. He froze, not because he suddenly understood anything, because he knew I would. The fallout hasn't settled. His Facebook post is still up. Comments are split. Some people quietly removed him. Some are defending him loudly. A few have messaged me privately saying they suspected something was off. He's barely speaking to me now. When he does, it's cold and clipped. He told me yesterday, you think you won. You have no idea what you've started. I told him I didn't start anything. He said this isn't over. The end. Your dad's a lying, midlife crisis gym rat catfish running fake, recently single profiles while gaslighting your mom, love bombing strangers half his age, and painting you as the unstable psycho for having receipts. You didn't invade privacy. You caught him in 4K public betrayal and stopped him from stringing along more women with the same emotionally dead marriage / complicated paperwork. Script, he's the one who made it public with his thirsty bios and voice notes. You just made it accurate. The Darvo, the she's spiraling smear campaign to relatives, the shattered glass, the victim post Facebook manifesto, classic narcissist meltdown when the mask rips. You had spine, protected your mom, even if she's still in fog, warned other women, and refused to stay silent like you were trained to. That's not vindictive. That's finally refusing to eat his bullshit to NTA times infinity. He's the asshole, the liar, and the embarrassment. Keep your screenshots, keep your distance, and don't let the flying monkeys guilt you. You did the right thing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments, and let us know which one was your favorite.